say God has moved this morning, and we always got to be willing to move with Him wherever He wants to go. We don't need to be so rigid that we can't move when God moves, or when He calls, or when He changes things, just because, well, I had a message, I had something wrote down, yeah, but that ain't what it. As we were sitting back there, or as I was standing back there a while ago, and we were worshiping, this scripture come in my heart, and I just want to read it to you, and then we can worship for another couple moments as we open up the altars. But because I really feel like there's somebody here today that needs to understand this. Revelation 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." He's knocking today. If you don't know Him, today's a great time to know Him, because He's knocking. He's looking for you. He wants you to be a part of His kingdom. It says, "If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and dine with him, and he with me. To him who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on His throne. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says." If He's speaking to you today, don't hesitate. Run to this altar. Limp to this altar. Crawl. I don't care if you crawl to this altar. But to give you an idea, I was going to talk about mask this morning, was what I was going to preach about. And if you want to go look at Matthew chapter 23, it's really about mask, right? How many have seen people in the church that's wearing masks? A lot of people. And that's what Jesus was talking about in this when He was talking about the Pharisees. There was 8 times that He used the word woe to the scribes and the Pharisees, because they were putting things on people that they couldn't do. And today we've seen a definite display of what God can show, that everybody's going through things, right? June opened a can of worms this morning in class. We said, "How's everybody doing?" She said, "Awful." I'm like, well, at least she didn't lie about it. How many times do we say, "Oh, I'm doing good"? But it's like we discussed there for a few minutes. Nobody wants to hear it anyway, right? So we just say, "I'm doing good, it's okay." But when we're fighting battles, we're fighting struggles. People in this church, every church, they're fighting battles and struggles. We got to know that everybody else is probably, a large portion of people is either fighting the same battle you're fighting, or they've already come through it, or they're fixing to get in it. And that's what we got to have, like Scripture tells us, don't forsake the assembling together, right? Because we need that fellowship, we need that love, we need that help to walk through the battle. And like she said, it's been a rough past few months. Wake up with a headache, but like she said about Clay, I can tell you where he got some of it from, because I'm not quitting. I'm not stopping. I'm not backing up. And if you want to fight, we'll go around, but it is what it is. And so today, let's stand and let's worship for a few more minutes before we prepare for communion. And I want to open these altars. And like I said, I feel like anybody that needed prayer has already got it. But if you need Jesus today, these altars are open. Come and accept Him. And am I going to tell you that you're going to have one of those aha moments and everything in your life's going to be straightened out? I ain't going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you can have peace to walk through the situations that you're in. You can have strength to go on and do another day. You can have that joy of the Lord. And today, Pastor Dolores and Pastor Duncan were supposed to have been with us today. But yesterday morning, they got a phone call that a couple in their church, something happened to the mother, and she stabbed her 7-year-old daughter yesterday and killed her, and as well as stabbed her own mother, which she's going to be fine, but the daughter didn't make it. So That's the reason why they're not with us today. They caught a plane and went back because they felt like they needed to be with their people. That kind of goes right along with that same mask, right? We got to be discerning when we see people sitting around us when they're dealing with situations and problems. If they're walking in darkness, we got to be discerning about that situation and be either in prayer or speak what God shares for us to speak. And understand that and these were people that were in the church with them. Other people had seen signs and things that they were questioning, but they didn't make the step. We got to make the steps that we got to make. We got to be discerning. And one of the, just so you know, in the coming weeks, if Bill's not going to be teaching class in here on Wednesday nights, my intentions is to start into gifts in the next coming weeks. The gifts of the Spirit. And we may do one a night, we may be 2 or 3, just whatever we work through. But I want us to know and understand that we need the gifts of the Spirit to be moving in this house, in our lives, in our families. And we need to know what is our gift. And we need to work and we need to operate in that gift. You know, it's not about just sitting here and soaking and sighing. We need to be soaking and then be squeezed out where we need to be used at, right? What happens to an old stinking sponge if you just let it sit there and
it stinks?
It stinks, right? But you get to use it and then you squeeze it out. You get what you're supposed to. That's what we got to do as a church. We got to continue to grow. And I'm impressed with how much growth that we've had this year already. Last year we averaged in the 60s. This year already we're pushing closer to 80. And it's not about numbers. I'm not a numbers guy, but numbers are souls. It's hearts, it's lives, it's people being changed. And we got to take the mask off. I could stop and preach, but I'm not going to. But we got to get our religious mask took off. You know, we got to be real with people and let them know that, hey, we mess up, right? We stumble, we fall, we have problems, we battle the flesh. Sometimes we don't say the things that God told us to because we're fighting the flesh. Oh, I can't say that to them. Did God say it or not? And if you did, you need to take that mask of fear off and get to work and do what God told you to do. Whether it be correction, whether it be exhortation, or whatever it is that He sent you to do, we got to do it. So let's worship for just a moment. And these altars are open. If you need Jesus today, He's knocking.